Hello guys, it's Chamason here, doing another Bakugan BakuTech Retrospect episode. This is episode 12 on Gavli Anacon. Gavli Anacon is BTC 27 and was also re-released in BCB 23 Shield of Super Bridge and BCB 26 Best Selection. It is a Subterra Bakugan. It can have 540 or 590 Gs, and it was released in September of 2011. Taking a look at its ball form, you can see it's molded in some kind of yellow-orange plastic, which looks pretty nice. A lot of black detailing, some yellow and silver detailing as well. Bit of metal on the feet there. So, very, very nice. Opening it up, it opens up like that and also has a couple manual parts. Of course, the feet here, and then this extra piece here on the tail flips up like that, and there it is, fully transformed. Now taking a look at its full design, it is of course fairly long. We'll talk about that in a moment. But there it is. Very cool looking Bakugan, especially for one of the earlier releases. So as for its main physical aspects, it does have two cross pieces, one on the head right here, and then also one back here on the tail, which is fairly noteworthy. And it also has built-in metal. These feet right here are actually not sole pieces, they are built-in metal pieces. Although it is very similar to just having actual sole pieces. Beyond that, the main idea of this Bakugan was to just be very long. It does take up a pretty significant portion of the card. Obviously, it's not as much compared to some of the later Bakugan releases, which I will be getting to eventually in this series, but for the time, this was definitely the biggest Bakugan. And as far as closing it goes, it's actually pretty simple. So we start by closing the manual parts here. So just put these feet in. This part goes down. And this part here just kind of opens up, folds in. This part comes down. That goes there, and then the head just snaps in place, and now it is closed. Looking at the anime and manga, Gavli Anacon was owned by Orochi. This is actually a manga-only character, thus Gavli Anacon was only prevalent in the manga, of course. Orochi faced Raichi, the deuteragonist of the series, in round 1 of the Colosseo Cup. So this wasn't an overly relevant character or Bakugan, but he at least had some brief spotlight. Now let's talk about the variants. And well, for the first time in the series, there are no variants. This will become far more common as the series goes on, but yeah, there's no variants, it's just this regular Gavli Anacon, and that's it. Moving on to competitive, Gavli Anacon was actually a really good Bakugan at the time of its release. It was the largest Bakugan out there. Its shape was at least decent for defense, but it had very good occupancy, again for the time, biggest Bakugan out there. It was great for walling off opponents, and it actually kind of got a buff a few months later with the release of Welgallo. As Welgallo had rubber cross pieces, meaning you could actually put one on the tail here, which could help it to stay on the card even better, adding to its defense. Alternatively, you can actually use metal cross pieces on this thing. The head is still fairly low to the ground, while the tail cross piece just touches the ground entirely, making it fairly heavy while also being pretty low to the ground. Also, the way this thing opens up, this back part here really juts out quite a lot, which can actually be a pretty decent attack. This thing wasn't really made for attack, but it's actually a pretty solid way to use it, especially within Subterra, which doesn't really have many great attackers. As time went on, this thing did lose a lot of defensive utility. In fact, when Welgallo actually came out, Acro Gizzard also came out. This thing still had a pretty solid spot, but over time, it got worse. And of course in Gachi, with things like Yoranja 4 and Ospress, Gavli Anacon just was not keeping up with its occupancy or defense. Though its offense actually remained somewhat decent. It has 4 metal pieces, and if you roll this thing backwards, you have a pretty interesting part that pops out a lot, giving it some extra hop-out force. It's not perfect, but it's actually a pretty respectable attacker. Honestly, I'd consider it to be pretty strong within the first season of BakuTech. Once you get into BakuTech Gachi, it does start to fall off a bit, like most 32mm attackers, aside from a very select few. But even by the end of it, it's still a pretty solid Bakugan, ranking around high B tier by my own metrics. So even if its use case kind of shifted, I still find it to be very solid, especially for Subterra, which tends to be very underrepresented. But that's really all for this video. Gavli Anacon is a very cool Bakugan, one that I like a lot because I've always kind of try and make a case for this thing because I think it's a lot better than people give it credit for. But I think that's all to say about it. Next episode will be on Zack Jaguar, so until then, thanks for watching and bye-bye.